We are now in our third week of the 50% new options trader challenge. My goal is to take my $16,000 that I started out with this year and turn it into a 50% return by the end of the year. Let's get into how I did last week and how we stand on the year. All right, in week 2, we had $15,432 in a net liquidation. That's our overall account value. Year to date, that's minus $591. So we're not looking too good for the start of the year. The premium we collected in week 2 was $72 with a total of $323 for the year. Percent return in week 2 is 1.6% and then minus 3.7% for the year on our return. Again, our goal for the end of the year is 50%. Let's see how we did last week in week 3. We saw a net liquidation of $15,610. That brings our year to date of minus $413. We collected $184 in premium. That brings our year to date total in premium of $507. We had a return of 1.2% last week. We're now up to negative 2.6%. So things are starting to look up in the market. We had a rough start at the beginning of the year. We just made new highs in the stock market, so I think we'll continue to see a breakout in the coming weeks. Let's take a look at my positions in the platform and see how the S&P 500 did last week. So we can see here the S&P 500 made a new high for the first time in nearly 2 years. So that's good news, right? We have good volume coming in and it's pushing strong at the end of the week. So what can we expect to see next week? A continuation, right? We're in breakout mode right now, so we could continue to see new highs into next week. We could eventually also see a touch on this resistance level, so it could pull back at some point. But overall, it's looking optimistic. Really good to see that at the end of the week, that push, because if you look on the daily chart, you see that it was down pretty well for most of the week, and we see a hammer that formed here at the bottom and then created this push. So you can see volume, green volume increasing every day at the end of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Really good indicator there that we're seeing a strong market here. Let's take a look at my current positions and where they stand today. So my first position is DraftKings. We can see that at the end of the week here, we had a really strong push here, a big green bar for the week, and some really good volume. I believe DraftKings has got a lot of attention because of the Super Bowl coming up. We see that it has a shelf here at $39.40. It wants to push back to that level. So I think we'll kind of see a cup and handle type situation here. We have a bottom trend line here. It didn't even want to touch that bottom trend line. It touched the 200 SMA and it wants to go back up to the highs. And I think we'll continue to see it push up above those highs and break out. Again, I think it's going to follow this bottom trend line, so we could see a pullback, but in the short-term play here, I think we're going to be seeing some good moves up. On the daily chart, you see it gapped up big here on January 18th, and then it's holding that level at the end of the week. So that was a good thing to see there. Let's take a look at my current positions in the curve tab. We can see I have 100 shares at $37.50. I have one call that I'm selling at $37.50 as well. And the stock was sitting below that, well below that, around $34.50. And then it gapped up and stayed up. That helped my position. I initially sold a put contract at $37.50. It got assigned when the stock dropped. Then I sold a call, and again, I'm collecting premium this whole time, and sold a call at $37.50, and I'm waiting for it to be in the money again. I want this contract to expire so I can collect my premium and get out of the position, the 100 share position. And so that at that point, I can start selling more puts. So it's working out for me right now. We can see a 55% probability that it's going to go up to the upside, which is a good sign for me. I've got my 100 shares, I'm plus 16, and then my call here shows that I'm minus $82, which that's fine, right? I want this to be in the money and I want this to be expired. So it's a good play right now for my DraftKings. I feel really good about it, especially with the Super Bowl coming up. I think I'll be able to exercise this position and then start shopping for other opportunities. My next position is Palantir. Let's take a look at the chart here. We see it selling off and it's following a downward trend line on the top. We also have an upward trend line forming from the bottom, and it decided these past 2 weeks to hold that upward trend line. So that's a good sign right there. We see a change in direction here with this hammer. The volume isn't as strong, but we are seeing some change in direction here. I think we'll continue to see this trend line coming up in Palantir, so it's going to respect this trend line here. Let's look at the daily to get a more detailed view of it. So yeah, we see it's going trending down, and then finally it respects this line here from the previous two bottoms, and I think that we're going to hold that level and maybe even see a reversal pushing up toward the 50-day moving average here. So we'll see how that turns out. I think we're going to see an upward move here next week. Again, we'll just keep an eye on it. Let's take a look at the curve tab for Palantir. All right, with Palantir, you can see I've got 400 shares. It's at roughly $18.53 per share on average, and I've got a total of 4 contracts on selling calls. So my goal is on this position is to get all my calls in the money, and then I can get out of that position. So I've got 1750 call right here and 2 at 1850. And then I have 1 call at 19. All of these were puts, and then they got assigned, and now I'm selling calls. So I have a long-term play on the 19 call. That's going to be February 16th expiration, so I've pushed that out farther. And then February 9th on 1850, and then January 26th on 1750. So I'm expecting my 1750 call be assigned here in the near future. Not so much on the 19 and 1850. We'll see what happens. I mean, anything can happen. We're seeing a new high on the S&P 500, so anything can happen. My third position is SoFi. So let's look at the chart here for the week. We see we have a red candle. We've had 3 red candles in a row for the past 3 weeks on decent volume. I mean, less than the previous week's green volume, but we are seeing that pullback here. We're seeing 2 bottoms here with a trend line going up, and then we have topping tails here with the trend line going down. We're seeing a bull flag here basically. I expect that this chart is going to respect these 2 levels until it finally breaks down or up. So let's look at the daily chart here and we'll get more details on what happened with SoFi this week. We're starting to see a bottom, I believe. We're starting to see the hammer forming here, and I think it's going to start bottoming out here, and we'll see a correction of some kind or leveling off. It seems to be, it hasn't touched the bottom trend line here, but I believe that we could see a reversal before it touches it, or it could touch it and then do a reversal. But I believe it's going to respect these 2 trend lines here, and it's just a big bull flag. Let's take a look at the curve chart for SoFi. So with SoFi, I've got 200 shares at an average price of $8.13, and I'm selling 2 contracts of calls, hoping that they'll get assigned at $8. Now, I've just been rolling these calls because I've been getting a good premium on them. So I'm just continuing to roll and collect premium until they get assigned. I also have a $9 put that I've been rolling, and I'm collecting a decent premium on that as well. So instead of letting that get assigned, I've decided to just keep rolling it and getting the premium. All right, my last position here is AI. Let's take a look at the chart here. On the weekly chart, we've got a new bottom forming, I believe. So I went ahead and put a increasing trend line on the bottom, and that could hold, it might not, but we'll see what happens next week. I think it is. We have a nice red hammer here, so that we could see a change in direction. We also have kind of a bull flag forming, but I want to note the past couple weeks, I drew this trend line here on these 2 bottoms, and it broke that. So it's been on a good decline in price for the last few weeks here, and this could be a bottom. We'll take a look and see what happens next week. I think it's going to change direction. So on the daily chart here, we can see it did touch this bottom trend line. We had 2 days where it held that after it dropped and touched the line. We have another nice hammer here on the daily chart. I think we'll start seeing a push back to these moving averages, because I think we're extended on the downside. So AI has been the most volatile, but I've been getting pretty good premiums from AI and also making adjustments to my puts. So let's take a look at the curve chart for AI. All right, so with AI, I've got 1 put that I'm selling. I started at $30.50. Because the premium was so high, I was able to actually adjust my put down from $30.50 all the way to $28 and still collect a decent premium. So it's been really good, really easy to move around. So I decided to go ahead and roll this another week instead of getting assigned, because I'm still making a decent premium on the puts that I'm rolling. I think we see a strong probability that we're going to see an increase in price. We're at 76% likelihood here. So we'll see what happens next week. I think we're going to see that correction that we're expecting from it. And my goal is for me to be able to buy this put back for a penny or 2 pennies. Worst case scenario, I let it get assigned and then I have to start selling calls. But I think I'll be able to keep rolling it until it actually does become worthless and I can buy it back for 1 or 2 pennies. So I've got high hopes for AI because I believe it's at a bottom right now. That wraps up week 3 on the 50% return challenge. Again, I'm a new options trader doing this challenge to try to see what the potential is for my strategy. If you want to follow along, I'm doing weekly updates on my portfolio and also doing how-tos and just general education on things that I've learned so far as a new options trader and want to share it with you. So please hit the subscribe button if you're interested, hit the like button if you like this video, and leave a comment down below and let me know kind of your history in options or kind of how your experience has been so far with options. See you all next week.